Oh, Tom,
Uh,
something bad happened.
Brandon, I just want to give people a look behind the scenes on how this unfolded, because if you're out of the loop, because this has happened very quickly, very very quickly. If you're out of the loop, there was emails that the New York Times released, and this is already after the fact that there was an email that was released
Last week.
that had Jon Gruden using some,
Racially insensitive phrasing.
yeah, I'd put it that way.
Is that the fairest way to say
Yeah,
it?
I would say that's the fairest way, in which then he addressed it with the team. He apologized. They interviewed members of the team, and the team seemed to like, let's put it this way. The team seemed lots more supportive of Jon Gruden than the Jaguars do of Urban Meyer. And he felt like, okay, maybe this is going to kind of just get swept under the rug. Gruden's like, I'm not racist. It's been 10 years, what have you. And we're like, okay, well, this story's done now. However, because Washington, that's the best part about it, Washington is being investigated, more emails have come out in which there is a litany of sexist, homophobic, racist emails between Jon Gruden and Bruce Allen.
Yep.
Culture is damn good.
Former Washington GM Bruce Allen, right?
Yep. And I called Perna on the phone, and I was like, hey, bud. I was like, this is coming out. Like, would you want to like hop on real quick? And Perna goes, well, is he fired yet? Like, did he get fired? And I was like, no, maybe if he does. And then as soon as we hung up, maybe 3 minutes later, I was like, oh, he's gone now. And here we are.
I was stuffing my face with chili.
Yeah.
I've got an editor for the first time helping me with the That's Good Broncos video. Yeah. I was like, I just need to wait for that to come in, focus on that. Daughter was a little crazy tonight, so I was like, just don't push yourself for one night. Yeah. And then he gets fired, and I'm like, okay. I texted Tom, I was putting my damn chili away, and then I look at my phone, and Tom's like, he resigned, he's fired. Like question marks. Okay, we'll go live now. I was like, give me 10 minutes.
Yeah. So
all right, so
there's a lot to talk about.
Okay, John, he's not fired, he resigned. But I think he resigned because basically the NFL said we have more emails.
Yeah.
And the first round, the first one got fired off with the racially insensitive comments.
Yep.
The second one had the homophobic comments. Yep. I mean, he called Roger Goodell another word for bundle of sticks.
Yes.
Correct? He called Roger Goodell the word we used to all say when we were 13 in an email, which you put it in writing. That is a red flag. So we learned that Jon Gruden basically emails at a 7th grade level. He never evolved as an email professional. Nope. So he called Roger Goodell the bundle of sticks word.
Yes.
And to me, Roger Goodell's got to be like, okay, we'll release this. And they're like, Raiders, you deal with this, because the NFL, he was not employed by the NFL when he sent these emails. It was when he was working for like Monday Night Football, and he was just mad at stuff. He's mad.
Like he wasn't even involved. Like he was just a color commentator on Monday Night Football, and he's just like, well, here's how I feel about X, Y, and Z. And boy, oh boy, did he have a litany of opinions on various topics. And guess what? The opinions weren't good.
No,
they were not good.
It was like your crazy drunk friend that like, is a good person, but gets too drunk and says some shit. You're like, okay, dude, you need to go home, and we'll address what's wrong with you tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And like, again, when this first came out, he addressed it, and it was 10 years ago. And I felt like, I mean, the consensus that I got from it, the team was like, all right, we're good. Like the Raiders weren't going to have like any disciplinary actions. It seemed like they were just like, okay. And now this whole new wave has come out, and it has. I can put the link. It's a New York Times article that contains like a ton of stuff. Like they're going after Roger Goodell because you drafted Michael Sam, an openly gay player, and he's like bashing that. And you think of like Carl Nassib, who's on their team right now, and like how he's got to be viewing this, and it ain't good.
Yeah, I feel really bad. Like, for Carl Nassib, okay, so they had like Derek Carr come out and address it with Gruden, and then Josh Jacobs, and like you have like it. That's like a PR thing where you have to have one of the black players from the team say, we're okay with what Jon Gruden said. We know he's a good guy. And the difference though is there's lots of black players on the team. Carl Nassib's the only openly gay player in the entire NFL. So I feel like this email comes out, like the whole team looks to Carl, like, Carl, you okay with this one? Or
Carl, how are we feeling about this?
Carl,
one?
can you tell us like how you feel about this thing? And that's like that's a real issue if you're a head coach. If you're saying some stuff that's now public, and it would definitely offend one of the key players on your team. Like you can't have that as a head coach. And a lot of people are like, Jon Gruden said this stuff a long time ago. But if you are also the commissioner of the NFL, you cannot have one of your most high profile positions saying that stuff about you, even if it wasn't like a word, like if he just called Roger Goodell a fuckface, right? Like something general, something many people have said, still get fired for that, even if he wasn't working for the NFL at the time, because that's a bad look for the organization to knowingly employ some guy who's saying that stuff about you or said that stuff about you.
I think it comes to a point too, because like I already see, and there's people in the comments, and listen real quick, like don't be shitty in the comments. Like just mods, I appreciate what you're doing, but don't be shitty in the comments. Like, again, this is not like a cancel culture. Like this is not that. This is, look at it from a purely business point. You have a head coach who's supposed to be a leader of men in that locker room, right? In which you are going after and making racially charged comments. And you have many black players on your team. You are making homophobic comments, and you have an openly gay player on your team. Like, I just don't see that there was any way. Like, as soon as that article came out, and again, I put it in the chat and I pinned it in case you want to see it for yourself. It's a lot of stuff. This isn't like, oh, it's just like one thing. There is a ton of stuff in there. And at that point, like, how do you get a team back from that? If you're Carl Nassib or you are a black player on the Raiders, like, how do you look at Jon Gruden and be like, oh yeah, this is fine. Like, this is all good. Like there's so many issues with this. And it's
my question is like, look, if Gruden resigned, like he knows that there are more emails, and he's probably like, oh shit, man, what else did I say 10 years ago? And if he's like, if I know me, it was probably bad. It was probably bad. It's like, if he offended most of the team, I'm trying to think of like the next email that comes out is something offensive about people with bad haircuts. And Mark Davis like, all right, this is the last one, Johnny boy. This is the last one. It's a bizarre situation because even beyond this, the Raiders gave Jon Gruden a 10-year contract,
$100 million,
which was stupid at the time.
It was fully guaranteed as well. So like, I'm curious as like, because he resigned, I'm assuming he's not going to get that money.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to touch that money. Because I saw there was, where was it? There was a tweet that said, hold on one second. I think it was like Mark Davis like came in and basically like met with him. And hold on one second. Yeah, Raiders owner Mark Davis arrived at team's facility a couple hours ago, went to find Jon Gruden per source. The two men met, and Gruden's no longer the Raiders head coach. So like this came out and there was a conversation and it was like, hey, Jon, so this is bad.
You're done. You got to be done, Jon.
Because I feel like it's either you're fired or, you know, you're going to have to quit or you're going to have to resign. Because again, like, I think just from not only just the comments, but I think it's just a matter of how can you go back in the locker room and then address your players after that and try to get them back.
It's you got to have the respect of your team. You've got to get all the guys behind you. The Raiders had that for 3 weeks this season. The whole joke was like, what's going to happen? How are the Raiders going to collapse? They're going to they started out hot last year, and never in my, I did not imagine this would be why the team got to this point this season. It's a surprise, and it's weird. It's weird that Jon Gruden was working for Monday Night Football and was just firing off ridiculous emails that obviously at the time he was charged up about. He said he regrets it. He was in a didn't he say something like he was in a weird spot at the time or something like
Yeah. And by the way, folks, I want to make something very clear too. People are like, it was just 10 years ago. It wasn't just 10 years ago. Like in the article itself, it's from 2015. It's from 2017 when it's starting to talk about the decision to bring in female referees. And he shares a super sexist thing and says, "Nice job, Roger." Like, this isn't something that I was like, you know what? It was 10 years ago. I said something really stupid, and I moved on and I grew and what have you. Like and again, I implore you, if you want to see it for yourself, I linked the article right in the chat. I pinned it to the top. Like, you could go and read through this stuff. This is stuff like that's 4 years ago. Like that he's mentioning that stuff.
This
like,
is
this is
the NFL stumbling upon a bunch of shit they didn't want to find, and this is how they're dealing with it. Because they wanted Gruden, like this. Basically, Gruden did the NFL a favor by resigning at this point, because this could have gotten ugly. Could have let this drag out a little longer. I'm not saying Mark Davis didn't tell him to resign. I'm sure that's what happened in their conversation. But you're right. It's saying it's a 7-year period they're finding stuff. And again, the only reason they're finding this stuff is because they started investigating the Washington football team.
Yep.
For the DEA seized their trainer's office and all his shit. Okay. So this is, if you want to blame somebody, blame the incompetence of the Washington football organization.
Sure.
And in the New York Times, was it the New York Times?
Yeah, New York Times.
In their article, they referenced Jon Gruden and Washington football team sharing nude photos of the Washington football team cheerleaders are topless photos.
Yeah.
And that whole thing was a scandal because the cheerleaders were being put in positions to take those photos that they did not want to do.
Correct.
I'm sure you've talked about that. I did plenty of videos about the Washington football team.
Oh, I did a whole thing about it. Yeah, I got demonetized for that because, it literally, because there was a whole scandal that he was like bringing like the Washington cheerleaders out and basically trying to like prostitute them off. Like, it was bad.
And that was Dan Snyder, not Jon Gruden.
Yeah, Dan Snyder. That's Dan Snyder.
The reason they found him is because Gruden apparently had a good relationship with Bruce Allen, to enough so where they're sharing those deplorable pictures. And also, you got to imagine Jon Gruden firing off these types of emails where he's saying this stuff. He's sending those to people who are obviously going to be okay with what he's saying. You know what I mean? Like, you don't send an email with that type of language in it to someone you're worried about having a different opinion on some of those things. So that's something else to consider, like moving forward with this is like, oh yeah, who are these even going to? Was it all Bruce Allen? Like, we're going to learn a lot more about this situation, and it's probably going to get uglier and darker. And
I mean, that's the thing too. Like, I'm very curious of like, okay, what about Dan Snyder's stuff? Like, what about like all this other stuff that's going on? But regardless, I mean, like right now, like just talking from a purely football standpoint, right? Because like, this is somehow, and it already has been, because I'm looking at this chat and the dumpster fire that it is. Like, you look at it and it's already like turned to like political of like, oh, it's a hit job and it's cancel culture. Like, listen, it's a private business and they're basically looking like, I just don't see how a coach can then face their players after this.
Yeah, go type an email and call your boss the things Gruden called Roger Goodell.
Yeah.
See if you have a job tomorrow. If you think that's what it's about, go do that. Now, is it like I don't know. There's a weird thing of privacy, I guess, and having communications exposed that you thought maybe were safe. Like, I understand that. I understand that.
It's a weird,
what maybe somebody wouldn't understand is it feels like they were just digging for emails about Jon Gruden. And yeah, that would be crappy. But they were looking for something else. Something else was being investigated. This just happened to come out.
Yeah.
Now, and the NFL didn't initially release this. A reporter found them and released the first one with the racist stuff. And then after that, the NFL found more of these emails, and they're saying 7 years of it. So I'm guessing there's a lot more. Yes,
Yeah.
knock on wood if you're
Like,
with me. Like,
the best part, like it's exactly how you put it, and I feel like people are going to take this and run with it in a million directions, like they already are going to. But like, this wasn't like targeting Gruden. Like, it literally was going after the Washington football team and investigating them for criminal activities, and then these emails got unearthed, and now like there's consequences to that. So Gruden resigning, I think it's definitely a matter of like, I was going to get fired, because I'm assuming that that's what the conversation was. That's a pure assumption, obviously. But I tweeted out as soon as it came out, I was like, I don't know if he has a job next week. Like, I would not be surprised. And it took a matter of hours, and that was it.
yeah.
So he's done now. Like, you can't do it. Like, that's just what it is. It's not a matter of, hey, like, oh, it's cancel culture going after white men. Like, nah, like, he's literally sending this stuff about his boss. And like, it's not something 10 years ago. It's stuff that was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And for you to be like, I'm not racist. And like, for this one comment, and I think they did what they were supposed to do. They talked to the players, right? They talked to the players. The players like gave their expression, because they're the ones who are deeply impacted by this, because this is the person who's supposed to lead them. Okay, what are you supposed to do now? Like, it's Tuesday, and you're just like, all right, guys, there's 18 more emails that came out. We need you to respond to each of these. Don't look at what comes out Wednesday. It's going to be worse. But like, this is not cancel culture. Like, this is legitimately like, this guy put a bunch of really bad stuff in emails, and now it got uncovered. And like, this is the consequence of working for like a private entity like the NFL and the Vegas Raiders.
Private, massive entity that draws a lot of public attention.
Yep.
Like, if he works for some small business somewhere and, had a forgiving owner, it's like, look, you made a mistake. You said something bad about me a long time ago. We can get past this. Nobody's going to know. It's not that. Everybody's going to know. And it doesn't surprise me that Gruden would email shit like that. I just think it's like a weird old it's like, I don't want to use the word football guy, but as somebody who grew up playing football around a lot of football guys, like,
Yeah,
it's the way a lot of them talk. And
it's
at
like
some point
culture.
you start to realize, like, okay, maybe guys say weird, messed up things, but they're not a bad person, whatever. Like, Gruden was forgiven by
He was.
lots of people within the NFL community, within the media. And that was just round one. The problem was it was like one thing. It's like, okay, this was one bad thing. Maybe he had a bad night, sent a bad email.
Sure.
Now there's a lot more of them. And then people are like, okay, well, you can't let that fly, because he really hit the big three there. He hit racial insensitivity, homophobia, and sexism. He got all three in there.
It's the trifecta.
He
literally hit the trifecta. So you look at this now, and like, there are so many questions. Like, it's Tuesday, folk. I'm sorry, it's Monday. It's Monday still. Like, week 5 is still going on. Like, there's a football game, and like, come Tuesday, the Raiders don't have a head coach. You just lost to the Bears on Sunday, and now like, the questions are not only going to be like, is there more stuff that's going to come out, but it's more of like, hey, who's our head coach now? Like, is you get like one of the you can just get an interim, you start a head coach search now, like, because there's some guys like, you're not gonna be able to poach, because you're not able to do it until the season's over. So I don't even know how the Raiders organization like does this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how they handle this now from just a logistical standpoint. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's
rough.
I'm assuming it will be an interim head coach. The Raiders will be free of Jon Gruden's contract. And if like, you're being honest about a football destination right now, the Raiders are a team a good head coach would want to go coach for. Like, there's talent on that roster.
There is.
I guess the other question is like Mike Mayock. Like, what's going to happen to him?
Big question
as GM, because Gruden's the reason he's there. I think Mike Mayock was the reason Gruden got maybe some sway like through NFL Network, through some of the media connections that Mike Mayock had, that I'm not sure other coaches would have sort of been afforded. So Mike Mayock, don't know what's going to happen there. Probably going to be interim head coach.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure out what's going on with Derek Carr moving forward. New city, new stadium, and the Raiders had to let go of I forget what his job title was. He was a big part of the organization with them for a long time. He resigned. I think it was like in July, maybe. There was like some financial issues behind the scenes. So I would say there's a handful of problems happening within the Raiders organization right now.
Mm-hmm. I think there's definitely going to be some like issues, and I think that they were talking, like you mentioned this before, and I saw a lot of people tweeting about this as well, kind of like the idea of like a cultural thing, right? And let's call a spade, right? The world 10 years ago, in terms of social media, in terms of like, if you want to call it like PC, like what have you, like it was different, right? Or at least it wasn't as exposed, called out, etc. Like it's 2021, like we're in a different time, right? In which like people do have to be careful what they say on social media. Like people do have to like be like all that stuff, right? At the same time, you have something like this that comes out. It is a question of like, all right, well, how much of that is like still in the NFL today? And like Gruden, I feel like that's like the tip of the iceberg, right? Because like if he's sharing this with an emailing and corresponding with literally like a top guy of a football team, like the Washington football team, like, and that's the correspondence that they're having. Like if you are like an owner or if you are a GM or a coach, you're frantically going, how does Twitter work? How do I delete the Twitters? And how do I like go through my emails? And like a lot of IT people are going to be contacted tomorrow morning and be like, hi, I need you to delete the internet for me. So
can you delete all of my emails that I have ever sent?
Ever. What's this browser history I see? Yeah. So I think there is going to be a lot of questions and a lot of they just named an interim. Rich Bisaccia. So he is the interim head coach right now. Stuff is going to start going quick. He was he spent 5 seasons as the Dallas Cowboys special teams coordinator, and he's currently the interim head coach. But what was he? He was the assistant head coach and special teams coordinator. So he is now named as the interim head coach. So there you go.
Rich Bisaccia. You want to get us canceled, Tom? Raiders assistant coach Rich Bisaccia has been hired to replace Jon Gruden. I'm Italian. I can say it.
Yeah.
Bisaccia.
He's in his 38th year of coaching. So it's his 4th season with the Raiders, 11th with Gruden. So he was with him for 7 years in Tampa Bay from 2002 to 2008. So like he has the experience. I assume that he's just going to kind of like ride this ship out. But like it's a long season. It's a long season. And I'm telling you, there's going to be some waves that are going to come out of this. So just
that's the thing. I mean, I don't know how many other head coaches or, people who are involved with the NFL were emailing weird shit to the Washington football team. But maybe the Washington football team, maybe there's like Bruce Allen had relationships with people.
Sure.
Who might not even be employed by the league right now. But those people had relationships with other people. And I don't know what the extent of what they're able to search, what they're digging up because of this Washington football team investigation. But yeah, there could be a, like a tree root system. just seeping out deep into the NFL. I don't want that. I hope it stops here. And I hope that's like the end of this shit.
Well, I think here's what I'll say about that. I think that, again, this wasn't like a targeted thing, like going after like certain people. This is literally the effects of an investigation on the Washington football team, which unearthed these emails, which people found. And then there you go. I think like if it's anything, I hope it's like an actual stop to like this kind of crap, because like, again, like it's unacceptable at this point. Right. And I think you'll be hard pressed to find any organization like within the NFL or outside of it that is going to hire somebody who like has that kind of stuff and like make them a leader in a locker room where they are going to have to coach athletes. Like that's what it comes down to. And like, again, you look at players are disciplined, right, for doing a litany of terrible stuff. And like this is an example where, you know, Jon Gruden is he said some stuff for a long time, for 7 years, not just 10 years ago. It's recent stuff. It came out, and now, you know, here we are. You know, I think it just comes down to they already interviewed people from the last comment that he made and the last emails that came out. You know, I don't think it's possible for you to just stay on as a coach, because like imagine the backlash that they would have gotten. And I don't even think I'm not talking about Twitter. Like I'm not talking about the made up internet. I'm talking about within the locker room. You know, I just don't know how players could respond to that respectfully and be like, oh, yeah, this is fine. This is fine.
Yeah. You know, if you want to be a leader, you got to exemplify the qualities of a leader in everything you do. I'm not saying like all good football head coaches are perfect people. I'm not saying people shouldn't be forgiven for mistakes and doing stupid shit. Like we've all been there. We've all said dumb things. Hopefully you didn't put them in writing. I'm on Twitter all day, every day, tweeting off dumb shit. I'm sure if I look back at Twitter from 2010 when I joined, I would not tweet some of the shit I tweeted then. Sure. But like what you and I do is different than what a head coach does. And there are different expectations for different jobs you have in this world, and the expectations and the perception. The NFL cares a lot about perception. It's why they can fine and suspend people, players, coaches, for conduct detrimental to the league. Because if they think it's going to hurt their ability to make money, they are going to get rid of it. And
I mean, like,
you want, like, there's a lot of people saying really stupid shit in the comments. I see it. I can't keep up with it. But like, oh man, I lost my point. What was I saying?
You're saying like the NFL like is trying to put on this happy face. Like, yeah,
they're saying stupid stuff. Jon Gruden made the worst mistake of all, which he offended the richest and the whitest people in the NFL. And that's going to cause swift punishment. He called out the owners. He directly called out Roger Goodell. And don't get me wrong, everybody talks shit about Roger Goodell, but we are not employed by him. So it's a little bit different. All right. Like it's, it's weird. It's a weird way to get fired. It's got to be the weirdest way a head coach has had to resign.
Gruden put out a statement, by the way, saying, I have resigned. Ian Rappaport just put it out. I have resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you all the players and coaches, staff, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone. And someone just tweeted this at me. Jon Gruden just finished building a $4.3 million home next to the Southern Highlands Golf Club last month.
Yeah. It's not like, look, like, I don't like the Raiders as a football team, right? Like, that's a fandom thing.
Sure.
But, like, I've always rooted for Jon Gruden because I find him entertaining as a character. So this is not, like, about, like, finding a moment to, like, capitalize on somebody else's downfall.
Correct.
Like, I did not want to see Gruden get fired this way. Like, if Gruden got fired, I wanted it to be like the way all other head coaches get fired.
They just suck.
Their team's bad. But he had a weird security blanket with that 10-year contract. It's not about kicking Gruden like when he's down. It's just like what the NFL had to do. You can still be a fan of the Raiders, Jon Gruden fan, or whatever you wanted to be. Like, it's an unfortunate way to get fired, and we're talking about it right now live because it's so fucking bizarre. Like, we're just trying to process this. It happened very quickly, and there's a lot to digest.
Yeah, I think you brought up a point, and like I kind of brought it up in the NFC West video today, and it was like kind of said in jest, but it's similar. Like, you look at how the NFL is responding to things, and you look at Colin Kaepernick like kneeling, and the NFL's response to that was like, hey, like, we're gonna fine players and like we're gonna go after them. And fast forward like 4 years, and now they have end racism like in their end zones. So like the NFL is like trying to put on this like happy face of like, hey, like, we've evolved, we're different now. They went after Dan Snyder, right? And there was that whole big punishment of like going through and like completely reworking the culture and saying like how terrible things were. There was that whole expose that came out, and there was all of that stuff. And I thought maybe Dan Snyder would be kicked out when he wasn't. I was like, all right, this is a joke. But once all of that happened, right, the NFL has pivoted hard and is now trying to like rebrand as this like, listen, like, that doesn't exist here. You know, we're going to diversify and all of this stuff. So like Jon Gruden represents like the opposite of that with those emails. And if the NFL is going to continue to be like, hey, this is who we are, that's not representative of them. And they do, whether you like it or not, as a private business, they get to decide who represents them. And Jon Gruden with that wasn't going to be that guy.
Yeah, the NFL can't have like a pro LGBTQ commercial campaign that says football is gay.
Correct.
And then also be okay with this, regardless of when it happened. Like,
correct.
Like, they can't.
And again, like, you could look at this, and like, I think that there are points that could be made in terms of just like you said, like with privacy and stuff like that. But like, the cat's out of the bag at this point. Like, it's done. And whatever decisions are made, that's like the result of private businesses. Like, that is the Raiders, that is the NFL. And it just wasn't tolerated. And like it is what it is. I mean, so because I already see as people already making this political, like in the chat and all of this stuff.
What's political about a coach being fired for saying
because it's cancel culture. It's going after white men. And again, like Perna just went and just said this whole thing of like, this is not how he wanted Jon Gruden to get fired, right? As a Broncos fan, you're just like, I just don't like the Raiders, you know? And
I wanted him to get fired because he's a bad head coach.
Yeah, because he's terrible. Cool. But like, no one wanted Jon Gruden to say any of these things.
Yeah,
you know, and he made the mistake of saying those things and putting it in writing. And regardless, it perceptions everything. And the NFL is very sensitive about its perception. In 2021, they're very, very sensitive about it because what it comes down to is advertiser money. And you got to admit, if Jon Gruden was staying in the NFL somehow, some way, it wasn't going to look good. Then you're talking boycotts, you're talking all this stuff. So yeah, it's what it is.
It's firing Jon Gruden because they're worried that keeping him would lose them money. That's called capitalism.
Yeah,
that is how that shit works, dog.
That's pure cat. Like, like if I go on a rant about YouTube and how terrible they are, and YouTube's like, you know what, screw this guy, and kicks me off, like, that sucks a lot, but that's their choice. Like, that's the epitome of free speech. You know, like, I can say it. That's fine. This ain't the government coming in and taking my free speech. But yeah, Jon Gruden.
That's fair, Cole. That is
Cole
fair.
Beasley is in the chat. He's just like, listen, this guy has been talking so much crap about me. Yeah, it's wild. I'm honestly, it's crazy that it happened so quickly, so fast, and now like he's just gone. So they got a new interim head coach. I am going to be fascinated to see what the hell the Raiders even do from here, because there's a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made. And you bring up Mike Mayock, like, dude, like that's going to be very interesting to see what he says, where like he stands, you know, if he's going to get into any kind of trouble. I don't know if he will, but you know, I think Mayock is going to try to distance himself a little bit. I don't even know. Where that goes.
That's not an organization I would want to be in charge of right now.
No.
Derek Carr, 2 years left on his contract right now.
Yeah.
It's crazy because, like we said, it looked like the Raiders just turned a corner. Looked like they're figuring things out. Then they hit the 2-game slide, and now this. Like, that's
a shot.
I thought shit was bad as a Broncos fan these last couple weeks. Does not compare.
Now, I just want to put something out there. A few weeks ago, the Raiders were your number 1 in your power rankings.
Oh my God, my curse is so powerful. Oh my God.
And they were shattered, by the way. They were shattered in your power rankings. You killed them, Perna. You killed them.
I'm sorry, Arizona Cardinals. I don't know what's going to happen next, but it can't be good.
You know who I really want to hear from about this? Antonio Brown. as he was just like, I'm out of there. He knew. Antonio Brown knew. There's probably secret messages in his rap album. We're going to have Tree go listen to it again just to see if he can uncover anything.
No wonder Gruden gave AB like so much leeway. He's like, dude, you don't even know half the shit I've said, man.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, listen, we want him here. It's fine. It's totally fine.
AB, I feel you, man. I've said some dumb shit in my life too. We're gonna let
this one slide, guys. Let bygones be bygones.
Oh, what'd you call Mike Mayock? We'll let that slide for a little bit.
Now we know.
Now we gotta go. Now we gotta go. Yeah, my curse is. Oh my God, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, yep.
I see the masshole.
Well,
so
now
you can still say masshole. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, now we're gonna kind of wait and see. Folks, I want to shout out the mods, by the way, for handling the chat this evening. I know that got real toxic real quick. Don't be shitty out there, people. Like, you can have opinions on this, what have you, but just don't be shitty. There's no reason to be. Yeah, it's gonna be politicized because everything is. But yep, Jon Gruden out as the Vegas Raiders coach after meeting with Mark Davis, in which we can only assume was a wild meeting. And
I know it was at PF Chang's.
Yes, we know that to be certain.
John, meet me by my General Tao's chicken, and we're gonna have a little talk about this. That's not a racial thing either, guys. Mark Davis just loves PF Chang's.
That's it.
Just gotta get
Mark
that out
Davis.
there.
Now articles are to come out. Mark Davis gone. That's it. He's gone.
Brandon Perna said PF Chang's gone.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, guys. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate everybody who wasn't an asshole in the comments. I do need to find moderators as well.
Yeah, that's what we really found out tonight. That Brandon Perna needs moderators quickly.
I need mods.
That's it. You can start you can start. And again, if you want to see what Gruden said, I put the link in the I pinned it to the top. It's a whole New York Times article, and it details, again, it's not just a one-time thing. It's a 7-year it's a 7-year tirade in which it just covers a litany of things.
I hear you, Gerard, but I can't control comments that come in at a speed I can't even read.
Casanova. Yeah.
Stop.
I mean, again,
you did it, Casanova.
It did it. He just told it to stop, and it stopped. Again, and I'll call the NFL out for this too. Like, you put all this stuff in, you put all the advertisements out, you put end racism on the helmets, you put it on the cleats now, that's allowed, you put it on the end zone, and I think that's great. I just hope that there's actual action that's being taken place that actually weeds it out of your organizations.
Yeah.
That's it. And that's all it is.
Be better. Just try to be better.
That's it. Folks, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you Wednesday, unless someone else gets fired. But we'll see you Wednesday morning. 11
Real question is, who do I curse tomorrow in my power rankings?
I swear to God, if the Packers ever find their way up there,
they ain't good enough to get there yet.
You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
All right. Bye, guys.
Folks.